The Canadian Pacific Railway: China's contribution. Buckled into the seats with yearning, impatient expressions spread across the faces of my fellow passengers, I can't help but smile to myself. The promise of food, job, and housing security has finally arrived after having loomed over our heads and teased us for the entire train ride here. The train screeches to a stop, and I snap my head up from my novel, hopeful, and yet no one moves. With wide eyes, we gaze out our respective windows, searching for the connection between our dreams of freedom and prosperity and our expectations of reality. Silence. I feel a wave of realization come over me and the rest of the train as we regard the sight. This wasn't what we had expected. My stomach stinks. We were misled like dogs sent to fetch a bone that was never thrown. I immediately want to go back home, but the work would be easier. The train doors open, indicating for us to disembark. I collect what few things I own in the top bunk, and I shuffle down the aisle behind the rest of the sheep. That is what we are, after all. One by one, we leave the train behind, a rigid, mechanical box that I once eagerly wanted to escape, and we enter our new, similarly designed, lives. The first thing I notice is the dirt. The ground, worn and beaten by the promise of something new, softly curls under my toes as I march forward. I begin east, like the sun in the morning sky, and I listen to the ringing of hammers in the distance. This demanding sound to be stifled only by a child crying. The mother's face is lined with unfamiliarity and darkened by the rays of the tireless sun as she quickly soothes her howling children, providing comfort through the warmth of her breast. Sweat collects at her sister's forehead as her soft but firm hands wring the cloth, muddying the ground with turbid water. As I walk, I glance around and see women with children on their backs, weighed down by the heaviness in the air like Atlas. Their busy minds pay no attention to the commotion around them. They have other work to do. The women race and scramble around the debris, trying to build a home as their men build the future. I move west. I see the men working on the railway like a colony of ants. The rays of the sun begin to burn their faces. They sweat with the work, making their bodies appear greased and glistening like Olympians. As each nail is hammered, the dirt beneath their toes hardens and thickens, imprinting evidence of each man's effort in the earth. Every muscle is like a rounded hilltop, strong and toned. With further scrutiny, I observe upon their faces expressions of anguish. The injustice between the Chinese workers and the people of European descent is seen in dark, weary brown eyes. Although all are working on the same railway, I see discrimination occur amongst the workers. The acidic tension between the Chinese and the Caucasians is like vinegar running down my throat. The Chinese workers are tasked with hard working conditions, while the Western folk enjoy higher privilege. The laborers left behind their dreams and desires to make Canadian history for $1 a day. Each railway track is given a face of sacrifice. Their hard-working labor and injustice will be remembered, but not as a triumph. Looking to the south, I see a cloud looming like a pall. The air becomes tense. Standing silently, I feel odors of metal and dust pollute my nose. Steam gray as a ghost emits from the train's smokestack. The men operating the train are also of Western persuasion compared to those building the tracks. Unlike the Chinese laborers, the individuals on the train are dressed in a white uniform, well kept and tailored even. A man is standing at the front end of the train, leading it with such powerful expression of authority. Further down the train, two men are witnessed rushing towards the inside of the train, like a pair of June bugs. The train as a whole leaves, miles of track behind. To the north. The tracks fade out of view behind the train and into the pine forest. Clouds of smoke and dust turn to crisp air with thick and woody coniferous scents. The pines cover the earth like fur on a bear, giving it a second, thicker coat of green below the blue above. The terrain lifts and rolls, sweeps and dips, eventually raising into the great hills in the distance. A majestic, sloped mesa oversees the railroad with a distant indifference as white phantoms drift north through the sky.